A warm welcome, and thank you for joining the Winning Paths podcast family. We'd like to take a moment to express our sincere gratitude for your support and enthusiasm. Your subscription means the world to us, and we're thrilled to have you on this archery journey. At Winning Paths, part of TIFAM, the Irish Field Archery Monthly, we're not just an audio channel, we're a community of passionate archery enthusiasts, united by our love for this ancient and captivating sport. Whether you're a seasoned archer or just starting out, our podcast is here for you. Dive into archery's rich history with our insightful monologues, exploring fascinating moments from ancient archers to modern-day legends, lore, and myths. Our interviews feature key figures in the archery world, sharing their experiences, insights, and advice. Our hosts also aren't afraid to voice bold and sometimes thought-provoking opinions, sparking lively discussions within our community. If you're enjoying the Winning Paths podcast, be sure to subscribe on Spotify and YouTube, share it with fellow archery enthusiasts, and together we can create a vibrant hub for everything archery, a place where passion meets knowledge and every arrow finds its mark. Thank you once again for being a part of the Winning Paths family. Your support fuels our passion, and we're excited to keep bringing you engaging content that resonates with the archery community. Subscribe on Spotify, follow us on YouTube, and let's continue shooting for the stars together. The bows of the Galadrim hum with the taut pull of destiny, their strings drawn tight, not as mere instruments of war, but as conduits of a deeper truth. In Tolkien's mythos, the bow transcends its role as a weapon and becomes a thread in the broader design of fate, a force through which the ancient tension between free will and the inevitable course of destiny manifests. When an archer draws the string, they are not simply readying an arrow, but rather setting into motion the quiet unraveling of events yet to come. The arrow, once loosed, becomes a messenger, flying swiftly and silently toward a mark preordained by forces beyond the archer's control. Tolkien imbues archery with profound symbolism, elevating it beyond mere skill into a reflection of humankind's fragile balance with the forces that shape the world. In the hands of the elves, men, and even the cruel orcs, the bow takes on many shapes. For figures like Beleg Strongbow, Bard the Bowman, and Legolas, it is a symbol of honor, strength, and a bond with the natural world. Yet, when wielded by the orcs, it becomes an instrument of brutality, stripped of elegance and grace. In this dual nature, the bow symbolizes both protection and destruction, embodying Tolkien's contemplation of fate, heroism, and the raw power of nature. Archery, in Tolkien's imagination, extends far beyond the physical act. It bears the weight of deeper meaning. The archer's mastery of the bow reflects their communion with the natural world and the wider forces that guide Middle-earth. Through this examination, we explore the significance of archery in Tolkien's works, delving into the stories of well-known archers like Beleg, Bard, and Legolas, but also uncovering the layers of meaning found in lesser-known characters. We will also look at the differences between how archery is portrayed in Tolkien's written works and its representation in Peter Jackson's films, where the emphasis often shifts towards spectacle. Beleg Cuthalion, known as Beleg Strongbow, is one of the earliest and most skilled archers in Tolkien's legendarium. His bow, Belthronding, carved from black yew, is not only a weapon but a symbol of his connection to nature and the shadow of fate that lingers over him. In European folklore, the yew is a tree often associated with death and destiny, and Beleg's use of a yew bow reflects the inescapable fate that governs his life. His arrows, silent and deadly, are an extension of his will, but they cannot protect him from the cruel hand of fate. Tolkien's description of Beleg's skill is almost lyrical. He could bend his bow to the utmost, yet shoot with such grace that his arrows flew straight and silent. Yet for all his skill and loyalty, Beleg's life ends in bitter irony. After rescuing Turin from captivity, Beleg is mistaken for an enemy and killed by the very sword he had retrieved for Turin's freedom. In this tragic moment, the bow's link to fate becomes painfully clear. No mastery, no amount of loyalty, can divert the path laid out by destiny. Beleg's death marks one of the saddest moments in the Silmarillion, a reminder of the limits of personal agency in a world shaped by greater forces. His bow, once a symbol of his grace and strength, is buried with him, as if to signify that, without its master, It holds no meaning. Bard the bowman, though spared Beleg's tragic end, is similarly bound by the weight of fate. In The Hobbit, Bard rises from obscurity to become the slayer of Smaug, the great dragon. His black arrow is not just a weapon but a symbol of his lineage, passed down from his forebears, tying him to the fate of his people. When Bard takes aim at Smaug's weak spot, it is not merely an act of skill, but the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy. Tolkien writes of Bard's fateful shot with a sense of history and destiny intertwined. He shot straight and true, as his father before him. With this arrow, Bard not only kills Smaug, but restores justice, bringing an end to the dragon's reign of terror. The black arrow, like Beleg's Belthronding, is a weapon shaped by fate. Its success lies not just in Bard's prowess, but in the fulfillment of a long-dormant promise. Bard's role as an archer, then, is not simply to protect his people, but to restore balance to a world disrupted by chaos. Thus, whether through the tragic arc of Beleg or the heroic rise of Bard, the bow in Tolkien's works is a symbol of deeper forces at play. It reflects not just the skill of the archer, but the inexorable pull of destiny that governs the world of Middle-earth. Whether in the hands of noble elves or humble men, the bow serves as a reminder of the eternal struggle between light and darkness, hope and despair, and the fine line between free will and fate. In The Lord of the Rings, Legolas, the prince of the woodland realm, stands as the most renowned archer, his mastery of the bow unparalleled in all of Middle-earth. As the son of Thranduil, his skill is not merely a testament to his royal lineage, but a reflection of the deep, ancient bond between the elves and the natural world. For Legolas, the bow is not merely a weapon, it is an extension of his very essence, a conduit through which his harmony with the forest and its spirits is made manifest. The elves, always intertwined with the rhythms of the earth, find their natural affinity in archery, and Legolas, with his arrows flying as if borne on the wind itself, exemplifies this connection. His shots are guided not merely by aim, but by the unseen forces that shape the world, each arrow whispering through the air with the grace of a leaf falling from a high branch. Tolkien's prose lingers on the fluidity and quiet elegance with which Legolas wields his bow. In the heat of battle, he becomes a silent force, his arrows cutting through the chaos with eerie precision. At Helm's Deep, amid the storm of swords and the fury of the enemy, Legolas remains calm, his presence a constant, a figure whose very stillness in the heart of violence brings hope. His archery is more than an act of war. It is a kind of artistry, the embodiment of the timeless beauty and perfection that define the elves. Though his bow remains unnamed, it carries within it the weight of the elven way of life, representing a civilization fading into the twilight. With each arrow loosed, there is a sense of melancholy, a reminder that the elves are withdrawing from the world of men, their age slowly passing into legend. Legolas's skill, though formidable, is tinged with this sorrow. His arrows, though deadly, seem to mourn the world they are leaving behind, and when Legolas finally departs Middle-earth to sail into the Undying Lands, the bow remains as a symbol of all that was beautiful, noble and fleeting about the elves, a final fading echo of their presence in the world of mortals. Yet, while Legolas, Beleg, and Bard represent the noble, almost sacred use of the bow, Tolkien does not shy away from its darker reflections. The orcs and goblins also employ the bow, though in their crude hands it becomes an instrument of savagery, a reflection of their own twisted nature. Where the elves and men wield the bow with grace and purpose, the orcish archers use it with a brute force devoid of any finesse or honor, their arrows not guided by precision, but by the blunt will to destroy. This stark contrast is perhaps best illustrated in the fateful scene at Amon Hen. Boromir, son of Denethor, fights valiantly to protect Merry and Pippin from the Uruk-hai. Armed only with his sword, he stands defiant against overwhelming odds, but it is the cruel arrows of Saruman's minions that ultimately bring him down. These arrows are not merely weapons, they are emissaries of Saruman's malice, each one sinking into Boromir's body with unfeeling brutality. In the novel, Boromir's death is a somber affair, his body discovered by Aragorn, the arrows that slew him a silent testament to the relentless evil he fought against. But in Peter Jackson's film, this scene is given a raw, visceral intensity. The arrows visibly take their toll on Boromir's body, and with each impact, the weight of his sacrifice grows heavier. The film captures the brutal truth of his demise, emphasizing both the savagery of the Uruk-hai and the nobility of Boromir's last stand. Whether in the book or the film, the arrows that kill him stand as a grim reminder of the merciless nature of evil, a stark contrast to the honor and precision with which Legolas and other heroes wield the same weapon. This contrast extends to The Hobbit as well, where the Battle of the Five Armies sees the goblins and their wargs raining arrows upon the men, elves and dwarves. In this climactic clash, the noble archers defend their homes with purpose and honor, while the goblins launch their arrows with reckless malice, embodying the chaos and destruction they bring. Their shots are wild, undisciplined, devoid of any grace or meaning, reflecting their lack of honor and their base cruelty. In Tolkien's moral universe, this distinction between the noble and the corrupt use of the bow is central. The weapon becomes a reflection of the character of its wielder. Where the elves and men use their bows to protect, to defend, and to restore balance, the orcs and goblins use theirs to tear down, to destroy without thought or care. In Tolkien's world, the bow is not just a tool of war, it is a mirror of the soul of those who draw it. In Tolkien's unfinished tales, the bow returns again and again, not merely as a weapon, but as an instrument woven deep into the fate of Middle-earth. In The History of Middle-earth, particularly within the Book of Lost Tales, we find glimpses of elven archers who loosed their arrows in the earliest wars against Morgoth. Among them is Maeglin, a figure entangled in shadow, whose skill with the bow, inherited from a noble lineage, is gradually tainted by treachery. Though his arrows once soared with the elegance and grace that defined his kin, his descent into darkness turns this gift into something far more sinister. Maeglin's transformation is a reminder of Tolkien's recurring theme, that even the most noble of skills can be twisted by those who have strayed from the light. What was once a symbol of strength and honor becomes a tool of betrayal, a reflection of the corruptible nature of power. In The Lay of Lythian, the unfinished epic that sings of Beren and Luthien, archery lingers in the background like a subtle note in a grand melody, a quiet force amid the tumult of battles fought against Morgoth's legions. Though Beren himself is not an archer, the presence of elven bowmen in these skirmishes underscores their timeless bond with the natural world, where each arrow is as much a defense of the land as it is an act of war. Their bows, taut with purpose, carry the weight of an age-old struggle, fighting to hold back the encroaching night. For the elves, the bow remains a sacred tool, an extension of their role as stewards of the world, ever battling the forces of chaos that threaten to consume it. Even the hobbits, those quiet souls bound to their peaceful shire, find themselves drawing bows when the world shifts beneath their feet. In The Return of the King, during the scouring of the Shire, these gentle folk, led by Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, rise against the tyranny of Saruman. Once a towering figure of power, now reduced to a petty despot, Saruman imposes his cruel will upon the Shire, unaware that even the simplest of creatures can wield the bow with deadly intent when their home is at stake. The hobbits, who once tilled their land with bare hands, now grasp weapons they scarcely knew, and their arrows, though lacking the elegance of elves or men, are charged with a deeper force. Their fight is not for glory, but for the preservation of all they hold dear. In this climactic moment, Grima Wormtongue, long subjugated by Saruman, finally strikes back and slays his master. As he flees, he is felled by the arrows of hobbit archers, their aim true in this final act of defiance. This scene, rich with symbolism, speaks of the hobbits' transformation from mere farmers to protectors of their own fate. Their arrows, not as swift or precise as those of ancient elves, carry with them the unyielding spirit of a people defending the simple joy of their lives. Saruman, once a great wizard, falls before their determination, his reign of terror ending not with a grand battle, but with the small, steady resolve of those he thought insignificant. Tolkien's message resounds. In Middle-earth, it is often the least likely, the smallest, who triumph over the corrupt and the powerful. The bow, in this moment, becomes a symbol of resilience, of justice wrought by the humble and the unassuming. Peter Jackson's film adaptations, however, paint archery in broader, more vivid strokes, often amplifying the act beyond the bounds of Tolkien's prose. In The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, arrows fly with impossible speed and force, defying physics to heighten the drama. Legolas, in particular, becomes a figure of almost supernatural prowess, gliding through battle as arrows leap from his bowstring in quick succession. His feats, shooting multiple targets with effortless grace, or sliding down staircases on shields while losing arrows, transform archery into something akin to spectacle, thrilling but at times estranged from the deeper meaning Tolkien imbued in the act. In Jackson's vision, the bow is often a tool for dramatic action, rather than a symbol of the elves' ancient connection to the world around them. Bard the Bowman, too, receives a slightly altered portrayal in the films. While his slaying of Smaug remains a heroic moment, Jackson amplifies the drama, placing Bard atop a bell tower, his son at his side to steady his aim. This cinematic flourish adds tension, but in doing so, the black arrow shifts from being a symbol of lineage and destiny to a mere tool of combat. The quiet dignity of Bard's act in the book, where his arrow is loosed with simple determination, becomes a more theatrical moment, losing some of the weight Tolkien gave it as a fateful act of justice. Boromir's death in the film also diverges from Tolkien's subtler handling of the scene. In the book, Boromir's final stand is relayed with a kind of quiet sorrow, his sacrifice framed in a reflective light, tinged with regret and redemption. Jackson, however, elongates the moment, turning it into a more visceral struggle, where each arrow pierces him with brutal force, emphasizing the physical toll of battle. While powerful in its own right, the film's version leans heavily on the spectacle of Boromir's strength against the onslaught. While Tolkien's original text underscores the moral weight of his sacrifice, the arrow's a reminder not only of his fall, but of his final redemption. In both book and film, the bow remains central to the struggle between good and evil. Yet, where Tolkien imbues archery with quiet dignity and symbolic resonance, Jackson's adaptations shift the focus toward the visual spectacle, highlighting the bow as a means of survival in a brutal world. Both interpretations hold their own power, but it is Tolkien's quieter, more poetic vision that lingers, where each arrow carries with it the weight of history, fate, and the ever-present struggle between light and darkness. Ultimately, in harmony with Tolkien's own design, archery stands as a potent symbol, not merely of skill, but of destiny's delicate touch and the fragile bond between the individual and the natural world. Through the bow, Tolkien conjures a link between the archer and the forces that shape Middle-earth, grounding it in ancient traditions, both literary and mythological. The bowstring's tension is the tension of fate itself, stretched taut between good and evil, heroism and despair. The flight of the arrow is not just a simple act of war or defense. It is an embodiment of choice within a world where destiny often casts its shadow long before the archer takes aim. Tolkien's archers do not merely alter the course of history through their prowess. Their every action is interwoven with the larger forces that guide the fates of all. Their mastery of the bow becomes a reflection of their deeper engagement with the world, a bridge between personal agency and the immutable pull of destiny. Whether the reader approaches Tolkien's work with the loftiest expectations or simply seeks a brief escape into wonder, archery serves as a gateway to understanding the broader themes that pulse through his stories, themes of justice, fate, and the inexorable march of time. In the world Tolkien crafted, the archer stands as a figure of profound literary resonance, each arrow a stroke of fate upon the canvas of history. The sound of the arrow's flight, that soft clink as it is loosed from the string, echoes with mythic purpose, becoming the voice of destiny itself. Every archer, every bow drawn, directs the unseen currents that flow through Middle-earth, shaping both the finished tales and the untold stories that live on in the corners of Tolkien's unfinished works.